Welcome everyone to the first podcast on our Play and Earn podcast. The first episode, that is. I'm your host, Emilio, and today the spotlight is on My Neighbor Alice. So, My Neighbor Alice is a up-and-coming play to earn game that's going to be hitting the marketplace quite shortly. This game has hit some notoriety in the past couple of months. In the last year, they've had about 3 land sales. And what land sales generally are is they auction off their NFT land spaces to players. So they've had 3 of those. They've been featured on Binance a numerous amount of times in terms of, let's say, the loot boxes that they've done, and also in the past the Christmas special as well. So the game is probably one of the more popular ones in that essence, and today what we're going to be doing is we're going to take a little bit of a look at the game from a gameplay perspective. So obviously the game has a lot of interesting things to it, but what we're going to be doing is slowly looking at the back end stuff, right? So how does the economy work? How's the progression system work? What is really the in-depth stuff here? So in the first page, if you go to the website, myneighboralice.com, the main page, it just has all the general information about it, where you can learn more. You could check out their updates, how to become part of the getting some land as well, in terms of what they have for the marketplace. Unfortunately, none of it is available at the moment. Surprise, surprise. A lot of this stuff is usually being worked on from the back. So we're going to just take a look at what they have and what they are showing. And I think it's important, first of all, to start off with the white paper, which is probably the most important part of this. When we talk about white paper, generally that's the GDD, the game design document. That is more or less what is the core of the gameplay intentions, and who are they marketing towards, who is the game supposed to be created for. Also comparing it to their competition as well. Generally speaking, GDDs are going to have a benchmarks where they look at other games in the market and try to see how they can replicate, or if they could enhance and fill that need that's in the market that is missing, that the competition is not doing. So with me, I have open here the white paper, and we're going to just take a quick look at more or less what we're going to be seeing here from the starting point. So the game is, apparently the white paper is version 1.0.1. It's sponsored by Chromia and Chromia. Chromia is the blockchain that the game is being on, and it's being developed currently by Antler Interactive. If you don't know who they are, I wouldn't be surprised. Antler Interactive, they have a couple of games that are out. I wouldn't say they're specifically a AAA team. They're more indie than anything else, as their games aren't that well known. So for me, it's hard to give them that approval. So speaking on that, we're going to keep going down the paper and obviously the table of contents. So in this GDD or white paper, they have in essence, the abstract. So they introduce more or less, what the game is about, the game overview, the features, the blockchain features specifically, and also the technology behind it, and the tokenomics and DeFi components of it as well. So let's get started here, because I think this game is quite interesting. I have been following this game for quite some time, and I think it could have some potential if it's targeted towards the right market, and also if it's aimed and fulfills what they want to do. So at the abstract, they talk about it being a multiplayer builder game, where you could buy and own land and build items and meet people, right? So it's going to go towards the social aspect of it, inspired by successful games as well. So Animal Crossing being probably one of the most well-known examples of a farmer-style game. The game also has a narrative where players are going to enjoy the experience, as well the ecosystem for players as well, to collect and trade NFTs. So their main line is, My Neighbor Alice is not a game for blockchain players, but it's a game that could introduce blockchain to millions. So obviously that's a promising one-liner to start off right off the bat. I'm not going to aim too much about this, because this is all the technical side of things, and we want to look really at what the game is as an overview, or what the game is trying to do here. So the overview is very simple here. They talk about basically how it's going to be taking place in the archipelago region of Lumelunda, where animals and humans share space. And generally speaking, the gameplay mechanics, from what I can tell, is that there's fishing, buck catching, beekeeping, amongst other things as well. And they share this region with a bunch of other individuals, such as Bjorn the Bear, Beekeeper Bob, Ivan the Merchant, and Shipwright Jose. By interacting with these neighbors, Alice as well. They do duties, and the players could earn rewards by exchange for in-game items that could be used on their lands. So overall, the main concept here is that players need to own a piece of land, where they'll be able to design and decorate their property to make it as unique and special as they want. And players apparently can experiment with the landscape and use different in-game assets like NFTs, which are available in the form of vegetation, furniture, buildings, or animals, to perform daily activities and participate in competitions and quests to earn rewards. So that's more or less what it is. From what I can tell, that is, generally speaking, the high-level pitch of this game. Overall, is it really the main goal here? It's kind of interesting to see because right off the onset, I don't see anything that really pulls me away from a typical Animal Crossing type of game here. I don't feel there's a lot of depth here. Market-wise, target audience is very simple. They say Animal Crossing, so I'm not going to go into too much of that. They mentioned Minecraft as well, Stardew Valley, which obviously Stardew Valley is full agency. I think this is probably one of the best open-world farm games there is on the market. So it's interesting to see some of the stuff here that they have. Continuing on, they have quite a bit of the reason why they have quite a bit of information in terms of what separates them from the rest. They discussed the blockchain and how procedural buildings are starting a trend in terms of building games that incorporate blockchain technology. It's very interesting. They say that their philosophy is it's a fantasized neighborhood, which uses human psychology, such as relatability and cute cells. Interesting. So the goal of the game, of the project, is to create a PR-friendly and user-friendly governance model for millions of users. And this discuss more or less how the game is MVP ready. So we're going to skip a bit of it because they start talking about the key gameplay features here. And I know a couple of them are just discussing really simply the islands. So the islands, generally speaking, are going to be the main areas where players, like I said, take part and do their activities. Usually it's farming, more or less. They talk about some of the other areas. Lumenstand is the small town where I guess more or less is all the shops are there, so players can really go there and purchase and sell more or less their things that they have gathered together. In terms of in-game assets, there's a couple of them that are interesting. So these are really the ingredients of the game. They talk about their houses, they have animals, they have vegetation, decorations, and cosmetics for players' avatar. In addition, platformer users can create assets using the NFT creator and monetize their design skills. So here is where they have the UGC content. So from what I can tell here already, the game has two-fold systems. They have a system where players can earn by doing their daily activities. They could earn by, let's say, selling the assets. They could also earn by creating assets as well. So creating customizable UGC content, which is considered a game as a platform. So that's really cool there. I think that's really interesting because a lot of the games that are coming out right now are trying to incorporate that into their game. So this is similar to, let's say, Roblox or even Sandbox, where Sandbox, once you become a registered content creator, you could create content and sell as well. So UGC, massive. I think of Fortnite as well, another prime example of games that really promote UGC content, but here they monetize it. So that's cool. So progression system. This is here for me, in my eyes, the main chunk of it. This is the meta progression of the game. So they said that they're going to have a dynamic progression system that rewards players as good citizens. Players will progress through the game by completing fun quests, favors, and other activities. So they don't really touch upon anything really concrete there. That's very high level. I would have liked to see more information about that. If there's a leveling system, for example, let's say you're creating crops or you're planting crops, the more of a specific crop you plant, you start enhancing its quality. Its quality is then being able to be compensated because of that. So let's say you have a crop, let's say turnip, That is, you start off by having a D quality, and after, you'll say 100 turnips you plant and collect, it becomes C, whatever. And then obviously that's worth more money because higher quality is able to craft or create better quality items as well subsequently. So I would have liked to see a more in-depth system. I think from an economy perspective, having that would allow players to really feel they're investing and that they're getting paid for their investment as well through that system. Also, another system that I would have liked to have seen at least would be the friendship system. I think because it does mention favors as well. So favors obviously have to be performed from one person to another. I think having a reputation system similar to what World of Warcraft did in Mesta Pandaria, where there was the farm where you had to help other people and daily quests allowed you to get reputation. There's no information about that here, which I find is interesting. I would have probably at least elaborated on that, or at least fleshed out that specifically for the game. Moving on, they talk about shared quests and community events. Okay, so this really here is something very cool because obviously having the game as a UGC content provider, a game as a platform, since it's going to be open world, shared quests and community events are probably going to be very important. So this year I see it as being something where a bunch of players get together for, let's say, an event, and they could perform certain activities to complete the event, or let's say they have to do against different land regions as well. That would be really cool. But overall here, what it says here is that one of their key values in the game is to create an atmosphere of friendship and common interest. The purpose of Mighty Realms is to create an alternative, beautiful world where anyone can play, find friends, and work together. So they want to enable various possibilities for players to work and share gold and resources to complete fun activities. Community create events where players are able to create and participate in activities. So they don't really give any concrete examples as well here. Again, like I said, if you're distributing a white paper, at least go into a mid-level discussion of what those types of informational events or quests look like, even if you don't have to go into the concrete examples or like the fine-tuned numerical values associated with the rewards for those events. At least high-level definitions of this can be something like you have a week to plant turnips. The land region that plants the most turnips wins a reward or a special collectible NFT for cosmetics, something like that. Very high level or mid level. But I don't like the fact that they did not enable you to really get a good understanding of what they are. They keep it very, very whitewashed for anything concrete here, which I don't really think is fantastic in that sense. And then they talk about the on-chain forum discussion. Where they talk about the decentralized forum where users are able to discuss the game activities and figure out upvoting schedules with the decentralized organization. Which is okay. That's interesting. So here now, the next I'm going to skip on to from the tokenomics of it because I mean, it's just straightforward. It's a token. If you guys don't know what tokens are or have the understanding layer 2 of the blockchain from the Chromia that they're going to be using, this is the information you guys could definitely check out in the links that I'll be providing in this video. But more than that, I want to really see deep down from an economy standpoint, how are these game assets are going to work in terms of economy. So the first part to talk about is collectibles and scarcity. Scarcity is economy design 101, supply and demand. Less of a supply equals more of a demand. More, a lot of supply, demand is as low. That's how you really control the pricing of your items, and especially for a blockchain game, that's extremely important because by not having a lot of an item available or given to players, this allows for that item to be worth much more. So let's talk about the first part here. Just going to scan over quickly. The element of scarcity and collectibles have been around since before computers, for sure. That's what they put. There'll be limited edition scarce items in addition to items designed by game developers, and there will be user-generated content. The openness of blockchain provides information about how many items exist in total. Yeah. So what are the levers here? So they have a fixed supply of land, which makes sense. They have limited edition of items, so those most probably are the ones that are currently in the loot boxes that are able to be purchased on Binance right now. I'm assuming those are the limited edition items. And they go on to say scarcity of limited item from user-generated content. Users acquire the rights to generate items, and these rights stipulate the max number of copies, thus enforcing scarcity requirements. So basically, they have threefold items. They have the UGC, so UGC content creators could create scarcity. They have the actual physical metaverse scarcity of land, so like the real world, where there's only so much land that exists. And lastly, the items, or the item created by the devs, they control the scarcity of that. This is a really interesting use, because scarcity is part of the ownership, which is part of the gamification principles that are associated with how to create intrinsic motivations for players. So interesting to see that they mention scarcity in their white paper, and they go into detail exactly what they are. Looking a bit more, to say the least, I think that's more or less everything I need to see here. Marketplace is not that important for us right now. You talk about the technology used. That's it's interesting, but not too intense. The game economy, they say they use a third area in the project is the property plot auctioning, which I mentioned in the beginning. I'm going to put a link to that specifically so you guys could take a look. Token model as well. Token is going to be obviously distributed as rewards to players for completing activities in the game. So that's their main currency. Their soft currency / hard currency really is their token, which is the My Neighbor Alice token. And okay, so they talk about here specifically the DeFi component of the game. So staking, and next renting NFTs. So players can rent as well items to other players, or they can rent land to other players as well. And I think that's pretty much it for this part. So overall, the core loop of the game, from what I can tell here, is basically players are, when they come into the game, they're going to, the micro loop is, so what is their daily things they do? Daily tasks would be, let's say, picking up quests and trying to complete daily quests as quickly as possible. So playing and earning at the same time. The micro loop really would be, let's say, taking the rewards from those quests and investing them into, let's say, different progression systems, such as the long-term activities or objectives. Let's say there's week-long ones. I'm not too sure. I'm assuming it's that. And then the meta, I would assume, is the relationships that you're going to have, or the reputations, I'm assuming, is going to be there, because I mean, it would make sense to put that with the community of characters, such as Bjorn the Bear, and so on and so forth. And also, I would assume the meta is also to have those collectibles as well. So completionists ideally are going to want to collect as much as possible. So the meta is your collection. What have you owned? What do you currently own? How much of the cosmetic NFTs do you have that you could use in the game? And obviously, subsequently, on the other side of the coin is the UGC content as well, where it's kind of outside of the traditional micro, macro, and meta progression loops, and more on the side of the UGC content creator, where you create, share, and earn side of things. But from what I can tell, this game looks interesting. The game is supposedly coming out in Q2, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be spring, which is anywhere between March to like July, more or less. That's when the game is supposed to be coming out. So looking forward to seeing how that's going to be. So based on what we saw here, everybody, and what I think personally, out of a thumbs up or a thumbs down, I give this a thumbs up, and I'll explain why. Number one, I see the potential here. I think the game has a lot of interesting mechanics in place, although I do not appreciate the fact that they did not go into detail at all about them. I think that was a bit lackluster in terms of individuals explaining more or less how the game functionality works from, let's say, a micro or macro loop. I mean, it's cool to mention things, but obviously having a bit more information on that is much more necessary. The only reason why I gave it a thumbs up is because they have a lot of different levers here where they explain more or less how the staking works, how the other gameplay functionalities are going to work in unison with each other. So I see the potential. That's why it's a thumbs up, because I see the potential in the system here. And obviously, time will tell if this game actually takes off and actually is promising as well. But from what I can tell, looking at the Telegram groups, looking at the Discord, looking at the website, I think this game does have some potential to be a very good game. And so that's it for episode 1 of Play and Earn podcast. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, follow, and subscribe to the channel. And I'll see you all in the next podcast.